Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. Hello, and welcome to the July 1st, 2020 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. Welcome. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida. I want to welcome you. We're going to talk about astrology today, so that's pretty awesome. We are going to go over what's going on, and it's going to be pretty big. Today is Wednesday, July 1st. And we have Saturn moving backwards into Capricorn today. It's not until later. We're not getting it until 7:37 p.m. And then right after that, at 9:21 p.m., Mars enters Sagittarius. Oh, excuse me, not Mars, Moon. So we've got the Moon in Sag and Saturn back in Capricorn. Interestingly, when Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, moves back into Capricorn, Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, will be in the same sign. So it's going to be a little interesting when that happens, because then the Moon will answer to Jupiter, and Jupiter will be in the same sign as Saturn and Pluto. And that means that he is influenced by the planetary energy of Pluto and Saturn. So Jupiter, I'm just going to start out with that. We're going to kind of take it as it comes today. It's a little stressful. I'm not going to lie. I've got to leave here in about an hour to go meet my daughter, who's coming back up from South Florida. And she's looking into getting a new car today. So a lot of stuff is going on. But Sagittarius rules long-distance transportation and travel. So that's right in alignment with that, isn't it? Anyway, Jupiter, travel, like I said, long-distance travel, education, higher education. Musicians are under the Jupiter umbrella. And expansion, understanding the greater world. And so having Jupiter in Capricorn brings it down to earth. So a little over, I would say 6 months ago, at the end of last year, in December of last year, there was a movement of Jupiter into Capricorn out of Sagittarius. And so that means we saw this happy-go-lucky energy move into a sign that is very restrictive and earthy. Definitely choosing my words carefully, but very practical and pragmatic. And so, of course, as Jupiter was more lively and more optimistic, going into Capricorn, he expanded the realm of Capricorn, which meant he expanded this more earthbound energy, this pragmatism of Capricorn. While he is at 23 degrees Capricorn, Pluto is at 24 Capricorn. And Jupiter just transited over Pluto. And so it influences us through major life change. Wherever Pluto is in your chart, that's where you will see major shifts in your life. I have it in my house of networking and people from my career. And it can also be ideas, understanding up in the 11th house. That's the Aquarius house by the natural chart. And so whenever Pluto goes through strong machinations, it triggers my friendships. And they kind of explode in my face sometimes. So wherever Pluto is, like I said, I'll just give you a quick rundown. If Pluto is in the first house, you will go through major changes in your ego and your sense of self and how you see yourself in this world and what you see your value as. Things can happen and you can feel like you're not the same person. Third house, you can see major shifts around where you when you were growing up, how you got trained. Teachers came and went, or you might be attached to a teacher who then disappears or, leaves in a dramatic way. It can also mean more car accidents or a lot of new cars through dramatic means. It can also mean you are very dramatic in how you speak. So, fourth house, Pluto, means that's the energy of home and family, and major shifts and changes come around home and family. Likely that you went to live in many different places throughout your life. The fifth house, you can have changes in creative energy where you might feel like you are completely keyed in to what's going on and create, and then take a complete left turn or right turn and never go back to the way you were creating. There's like an upheaval. It can also relate to your children, and that means that they can come and go in dramatic ways. The house of service and health, the sixth house, if you have Pluto there, likely that you will go through many different types of work scenarios. You can change how you interact with people based on the level of service you want to give them, and maybe you give and give and give and then hit a limit and change direction and go somewhere else or shift the kind of service that you give to people. The seventh house with Pluto in it means there's likelihood that you will have major upheavals in partnerships or in marriage. You could potentially have more than one marriage. In the eighth house, that's the natal natural positioning of Pluto to the zodiac, because it is the house of Scorpio. And having Pluto in the eighth house will mean that not only are you kind of in your element, but you will be lit up. Definitely if you have Pluto in the eighth, you would be lit up for understanding people on a very deep level. And you can even be a little obsessive. There can be major blow-ups in partnerships, and your life will change dramatically around the people that you love in your life coming and going. And that can be just they can leave, or it could be through the passing of someone. The ninth house, which is the Sagittarius house, means that there are definitely dramatic shifts of where you live. You can go to different countries. You need to move on quickly without giving notice sometimes. Or there may be, again, explosions or dramatic interactions with people that are reflected in where you live or how you move about and understand things. It can also mean that you go through major revelations in religion and spiritual growth in that house. Now, the house that rules career is the 10th, and having Pluto in your career house means you are likely to have big changes throughout your life in your career. And that usually comes from feeling like you're no longer able to give what you need to give to this particular career because you've changed your visceral passion for it. Once the passion for a career choice has burned out, you have to find another one. You just aren't able to give anymore. That's what Pluto does for us. It really gives us a strong passion for wherever it is in our charts. In the 11th house, which is where it is for me, like I said, major shifts and changes can also occur around career or the people that you associate with your life purpose. You can have significant ideas that can be life-changing, inventions that would affect you and change how the world sees you. And then in the 12th house, and both the 11th and the 12th can mean mental breaks from a certain paradigm. So it can shift you from seeing things one way and behaving one way to shifting and behaving in another way. And so in the 12th house, you might seem a little different than the norm. Actually, both the 11th and 12th house, you can seem eccentric. And the 12th house, you are much more interested in psychic awareness, and your intuition is very strong. You can be connected to people who have passed on, and so you might be more mediumistic with Pluto in the 12th house. Okay, so Anyway, Pluto is a significant planet in the zodiac. Yes, it was demoted a decade and a half ago, but I guess being so strongly linked to Pluto, I took that one personally, but I don't demote it in its power. Not only do I not demote it in the power it has, I elevate it, because wherever Pluto goes, that's where you will see a major change in your life. And currently, Pluto is in Capricorn, which affects the masses through the material world, through the hierarchy, and the systems that we govern our societies in. And so it's also politics, government, legalities, it's the Supreme Court, it's any kind of law or legal issues, and it can be major changes to the structure of that entity, whatever it is. It rules bosses in Capricorn, and so there may be a significant break from an authority figure during this time. Jupiter is very transformative in ways that are more spiritual and connected to the transitory nature of life. And so more and more Jupiter is, in my world, a significator of a transition. My uncle, as you know, if you've listened to the podcast, passed a couple weeks ago, and I looked up his chart and the day and the moment he passed, and it was an exact Jupiter return to the degree. So Jupiter is a very strong significator of a transition in life. Now, it doesn't mean that every time Jupiter is in a strong position in your chart, you die, of course, but it does mean something transitions inside of you. There is an ideology, or a dogma, a belief system, especially in Capricorn. Capricorn is my sign of dogma. And dogma is just a belief that you hold to be truthful in your own life. Whether or not it ultimately is to be found out later. But if it doesn't end up, it really is more something that you say, I'm going to believe this because this is what I believe. And so you hold fast to that idea, and right now with Jupiter in Capricorn, those ideas change. And the amount that we are beholden to an idea is transitioning. And so having Jupiter in Capricorn means that you will change how you think about things. And these are long-held beliefs. These are not like, oh yeah, I had my hair this way last year, but I'm going to change it to a new style. It's much more life significant than that. And then the fact that Jupiter and Pluto are combined right now, are within 1 degree of each other, then it just adds that much more weight to the major life shifts that we're going through. And as I've said in past past podcasts, having these planets join up in Capricorn and transit back and forth over each other during the retrograde periods can mean that we are really shifting something strong in our lives. It's not just one area, but it's combined. It's more than just our passion, which is the Pluto. It's where do we want to be? Where are we passionate? Not just where in our lives, but where physically on the earth. And Jupiter is a transitory energy. It's a vagabond of the zodiac. It wants to move along. It understands things and moves on. And it likes to pick up as it goes. It picks up information and understanding as it goes. Saturn, like I said, goes back, and I got chills when I said that, Saturn goes back into Capricorn tonight. Not going to lie, Saturn in Aquarius is much more comfortable for me. Capricorn, you would think with all my energy in my chart in Virgo, I would like the Capricorn energy, but honestly, the Uranus in Virgo, conjunct Pluto in Virgo, conjunct my Sun and my Mercury in Virgo, to really, and in the house, the 11th house of Aquarius, really combine to want that freedom, to really enjoy that freedom that Aquarius can bring even to Saturn. And so going back into Capricorn, it's like double dosing on authority figures and hierarchy and restriction. So if you're feeling that, that's what's going on now. I have a friend who works at Disney, and she was laid off in March, I believe. And she's been trying to get her own business up and running, which is a very Aquarian thing to do. And she has been fine with not going back to Disney, but they were scheduled to open July 11th. She hasn't been called back yet because she's in the second tier of workers, but she's not so anxious to go back. And I see Saturn going into Capricorn. It will make a more definitive lesson, a more definitive storyline when it goes back into Capricorn. It's not as up in the air, so to speak, which is a really good metaphor for Aquarius being an air sign. But Capricorn is earthy, it's grounded. It wants us to see things in a material way, in the, quote, reality, unquote, way. And I'm just going to say this as a very strong Aquarian person. Alternative jobs are not real. They are real. They're just non-traditional. So all of you artists out there, all of you astrologers, all of you people who work for yourselves, you're just non-traditional. It's not a real, not a real job, which is what I hear a lot as an astrologer and an artist. So Saturn back into Capricorn means now it's time to really commit, and commit to who you are, especially as Saturn approaches Pluto again, because Pluto will not let you negate your passion or dismiss it. Saturn with Pluto always will enforce that you are committed to your passion. And Pluto in Capricorn, the passion can be government and hierarchies and how to re-systematize, reorganize that structure, which is what we're seeing. So Jupiter adds to that the level of education that we're getting, where we're getting educated, how we're getting educated. Jupiter goes into Aquarius in December. He is going to be renovating the education sector because he hasn't gotten there yet. The last time he was there was over 12 years ago. So he will once again go into innovation in how we learn things. He will go into science and technology and give another view. We won't things will be going very rapidly. He will be joining with Saturn as he goes in, so it will be kind of an awakening of the technological responsibility, which we're already seeing. And this is an interesting point, that as we move along in our understanding of technology in the modern day world, Saturn and Jupiter joining in Aquarius, which rules technology, it rules weather, rules meteorology and systems of the air. It's also higher level of communication. It's the internet. It's broadcasting across a large scale. This energy will bring down to earth and bring ownership and restriction of sorts to the Wild West idea of technology, which really, if you think about it, technology really ramped up when the internet came into being. And I remember the first time I was on the internet, I was working as a marketing coordinator in Denver, and it was part of the job to go on the internet, and we had connection, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And of course I was hooked and never looked back after that, and that was the mid-90s. So really, this whole frontier in the scope of humanity is extremely new. It's very, very new. And Saturn and Jupiter, again, chills coming with the new frontier as we harness the power of that ability to connect the world. So, yeah, that happens today. Anyway, Saturn back from Aquarius into Capricorn. A shift goes on. We will see it go forward and join in December. The 13th and 16th of December is Jupiter and Saturn. Let me look for sure which is which. And I need glasses for that. I'm sorry. I'm a little under the weather today. I apologize if my voice is a little congested. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. So Saturn goes in on the 16th. Excuse me, I thought it was 13th and 16th. It's the 16th and the 19th, so the 3 days apart. Jupiter goes in on the 19th of December to Aquarius, and Saturn goes in on the 17th, or 16th, excuse me. So we will see a lot of technology energy pickup in November, and quite honestly, that's going to be a major player in this election. What goes on with the tallying and understanding it. It's a really interesting time, the end of this year and the election, because like I said, I think I told you in the last 1 or 2 episodes that this is, you can't see it in the audio podcast, but I'll show the video podcast, maybe right there. The day of the election is retrograde. Mercury goes direct in the middle of the day. And we also have Moon squaring Neptune in the evening, early evening, like at 5:30 Eastern. And so the Moon is also in conjunct Scorpio. Moon in Gemini, which is interesting because the Moon is our emotions. And in Gemini, it's analytical, but it's also dualistic. In conjunct to Scorpio, the Sun in Scorpio is like, no, this is what the truth is. This is how it is. This is the connection to ego and our sense of identity versus how we experience emotion. And so when those two are not in alignment, there's going to be a disconnect in how we vote. There's going to be a disconnect in the process of voting, especially with Sun in Scorpio, because Scorpio rules voting in elections and, legalities, things like that. So because of the Moon in Scorpio, and because we have Mercury turning direct midday, I definitely see there's going to be 2 ways of seeing the outcome of the election, and probably, and now there's one other thing in there. I think there was something Libra going on. Oh yeah, Venus is in Libra as well, which is balance in the scales, and she is also in conjunct to Uranus and Taurus, which means there is a technological upheaval. And of course, that's going to be an issue and will probably have repercussions for years to come around what we do to ensure voting is forthright and legal and honest. Because we are seeing this energy of discord with how we not only choose, but the technology with which we're choosing. So it's going to be a very rocking and rolling election. I think we already see that in what's going on, but I do foresee there being some type of legal challenge to the outcome. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. And I also, because of Venus in Libra, there is like a balancing wanting to go on. And so that can also bring a closer election, because it's the scales trying to keep things in balance. So, yeah, it's going to be very passionate and very air energy with Moon in Gemini and Venus in Libra. Lots of air that day. Okay, I'm sorry. Again, like I said, I'm a little tired today, energetically, I think. Definitely feeling some congestion, but whatever. I'm here for you anyway. I enjoy spending my time with you. So today, I'll go over what's going on today, and that is Sun in Cancer at 10 degrees, Mercury at 9 degrees. Mercury is retrograde, so the Sun and Mercury just crisscrossed, and yet they're still together. So they went like this, so the Sun went forward and Mercury went retrograde and over the Sun. So that, when they join, is called combust. I believe that was yesterday. And so we have this intense righteousness in what we see as the environment or our opinion. We want to tell people what our opinion is. I am no different. As you probably know, I'm very opinionated. I've tried to temper it on this podcast, but probably not as much lately because it's just a lot. But anyway, in Cancer, in the sign of Cancer, Mercury and the Sun are very much about the family and the home. And really, because of everything going on in news, it's the collectiveness, because we are a Cancer country. Like I said that last week, we have Sun in Cancer. We're 4 days out, 3 days out from the birth of the nation. So it is a very big week with the Sun in a solar return for America. And also that affects England. Remember, they were the other half of the Declaration of Independence. We declared independence from England. So they lost a little something, a lot of something, I guess I should say. But the North Node at 29 Gemini is influencing us to keep seeking the knowledge and wisdom and communicate what we understand. Yeah. Wow, I'm just really kind of foggy right now. I'm sorry. Uranus in Taurus at 9 degrees of here in Orlando. It's at the midheaven. So hopefully that is not going to be too much. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some more information about Corona here in Orlando. We've got a mask. We have a mask rule. I don't even know what it is. It was a directive that we all wear masks in Orange County or Orlando. And so, every time we go out, we wear a mask. And that's fine with me because I'm always, pardon me, the people that I watch on YouTube who do a lot of readings and stuff, their noses itch when Spirit comes in. And I guess that's happening to me today. So yeah, Uranus in Taurus at the midheaven here in Orlando. Whenever the planets hit the midheaven, we can see something that affects the masses, especially if it's Uranus. Uranus, Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, any of those, the farther out planets. On the midheaven, it's a much more significant in the spotlight kind of event or energy. But here in Orlando, like I said, we are experiencing heightened coronavirus numbers, not surprising. And of course in Florida, they're clamping them down, which just makes me livid. Anyway, I have to detach, and that's what Aquarius is good at, is detaching from the emotionalism of situations. Hopefully I'm still recording here. I've got a new setup and we don't know. But Mars at 2 degrees Aries, and so Mars in Aries is very strong energy around masculine energy. So that's also the police, the emergency workers, anything of accidents, blood, also for a profession, salespeople. I feel like I repeat myself so much, and I apologize for doing that. I really do want to take readings because I find it really helps flesh out what I say about astrology when I do a reading live. It's just not something I'm doing currently. So I will get to that eventually again. But in the meantime, if you have a question for me on the podcast, send me an email at that's the letter S and O, at angeliczodiac.com. Go to Angelic Zodiac. There's a contact drop-down option. You can get me through Angelic Zodiac on Facebook and Instagram. I encourage you to follow me on Instagram. I post a lot throughout the week on Instagram. And I'm going to probably throw up some horoscopes on my blog on angeliczodiac.com later today or tomorrow. So that goes through the end of August. I believe, no, the end of September. So it's all of the summer months. I'm
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.